The last time you filled your gas tank, did you notice the price? Because something changed this week. Something most people felt, but nobody explained. Gas prices just jumped 43 cents per gallon in 7 days. The biggest single-week spike since Hurricane Katrina in 2005. Your groceries are about to cost more. Your flights, your mortgage rate. Everything that moves by truck, ship, or plane, more expensive, starting now. And almost nobody is connecting the dots between what happened 6,000 miles away and what is about to happen to your wallet. On February 28, 2026, U.S. and Israeli forces launched military strikes on Iran. Within hours, Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz, one waterway, 20% of the world's entire oil supply, shut down overnight. What happened next is not a political story. It is not a military story. It is a financial story, and it is happening to you right now. My name is Capital Explained, and today we are going to break down exactly how a war in the Middle East empties American wallets and who profits every single time it happens. Let's start with the number you already felt this week. Gas hit $3.41 per gallon on Saturday, up 43 cents from 7 days earlier. Diesel hit $4.51 per gallon, up 75 cents in 1 week. The biggest spike since Hurricane Katrina devastated Gulf oil production in 2005. But here's what the news is not telling you about that number. Every 1 cent increase in gas prices costs American consumers $1.4 billion extra every single year. 43 cents. Multiply that out. That is over $60 billion per year draining directly from American wallets before this crisis even fully develops. And the people hit hardest are not the wealthy. They drive electric vehicles. They work from home. They fly private. The people hit hardest are the Americans who drive to work every single day. The ones filling up at $3.41 a gallon and watching the number climb while their paycheck stays exactly the same. And gas is just the beginning, because oil is not just fuel. Oil is in everything: plastics, packaging, fertilizer, pharmaceuticals. When oil prices spike, the price of almost everything follows. Which brings us to what is actually happening in that waterway. To understand why your grocery bill is about to rise, you need to understand one strip of water. The Strait of Hormuz is 21 miles wide at its narrowest point. It sits between Iran and the Arabian Peninsula, and through it flows 20% of the world's entire oil supply every single day. Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, the UAE, their oil exports all flow through this single waterway before reaching the rest of the world. Iran has now closed it. In Europe, diesel prices doubled within 48 hours of the closure announcement. In Asia, jet fuel rose 200%. On Wall Street, oil futures spiked to levels not seen since the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine. But here's what the news is missing entirely. This is not just about oil. This is about supply chains. Everything that was already disrupted after COVID, already fragile, already stretched, just got hit again. Shipping costs, container prices, import delays. Every product that travels by sea is now more expensive to move, and American consumers are at the end of every one of those supply chains. There's a word that economists are beginning to whisper, a word that has not been relevant since the 1970s, a word that describes the worst possible combination of economic conditions: stagflation. Stagflation is what happens when prices rise and economic growth slows simultaneously. Inflation and recession at the same time. Your cost of living goes up, your job security goes down at the same time. Here's why the Iran conflict makes stagflation a real risk right now. The Federal Reserve has spent 2 years fighting inflation by keeping interest rates high. High rates slow the economy. That's how they work. The U.S. economy was already showing signs of weakness. Employers cut 92,000 jobs just in February 2026, before the Iran strikes even began. Now add an oil shock on top of that. Oil shocks historically push inflation back up, exactly when the Fed was hoping to cut rates. Instead of rate cuts that would have helped everyday Americans, the Fed may now have to keep rates high, or even raise them again. What does that mean for you specifically? Mortgage rates, which had just started to fall, climbed back above 6% this week. For the average American buying a $400,000 home, every 0.5% rise in mortgage rates costs an extra $120 per month, every single month, for 30 years. Higher gas, higher groceries, higher mortgage, fewer jobs, all at the same time. That's stagflation, and it's already beginning. Now, let's talk about something that nobody in Washington wants to discuss openly: the cost of this war. According to the Penn-Wharton budget model at the University of Pennsylvania, one of the most respected economic research institutions in the United States, the Iran conflict could cost American taxpayers up to $210 billion. $210 billion. To put that in perspective, that's enough to give every single American over the age of 18 a check for $800. That's more than the entire annual budget of the Department of Education. That's more than the U.S. spent on infrastructure in 2024. And who pays that $210 billion? Not the defense contractors who are currently watching their stock prices surge. Not the oil companies recording record profits as prices spike. Not the hedge funds that bet on oil futures 3 weeks before the strikes. The $210 billion is paid through taxes, through debt, through inflation. It's paid by the nurse driving to work at $3.41 a gallon, the teacher whose mortgage just got more expensive, the construction worker whose materials now cost more to import. This is the pattern. This has always been the pattern. The profits from war flow upward, the costs flow downward, every single time. So where does this leave the average American right now? Gas higher, groceries higher, mortgage rates higher, jobs fewer, tax burden growing, and a $210 billion war bill working its way through the system. 61% of Americans already disapprove of Trump's handling of the economy. Nearly 50% oppose the military action in Iran. The public is telling pollsters exactly what their wallets are telling them. But here's what Capital Explained wants you to understand. This is not just about Iran. This is not just about 2026. This is about a system where the financial consequences of major decisions, decisions made by a small number of people in Washington and on Wall Street, are absorbed entirely by ordinary Americans. While defense stocks surge, while oil company profits climb, while hedge funds that positioned correctly in oil futures collect their returns. The Strait of Hormuz may reopen, gas prices may stabilize, but the pattern of who pays and who profits, that doesn't change. That's what Capital Explained is here to show you. Not with anger, not with politics, but with numbers, facts, and clarity. If this video helped you understand what is actually happening to your wallet right now, that's exactly what Capital Explained is here for. Hit subscribe. Every week we strip away another layer of the financial system that most people never see. Share this with one person who's been watching gas prices climb this week and wondering why. That's genuinely the best way to help this channel grow. And next week, we're going inside the Federal Reserve, the secretive American institution that controls every dollar in your pocket, how it was created, by whom, and why it was never supposed to be found out. Capital Explained. See you next week.